Once described as gender in a blender, Dorian Courtisan is a fresh performer on the Adelaide scene, spreading their legs and their own weird style of draglesque all around town for the past year and a half. They're scandalously silly and might just leave you questioning your own sexuality a little. Blending the worlds of drag, burlesque, and sometimes a dash of sideshow, if you're lucky. They're also the reigning winner of the Apprentice Burlesque competition for South Australia in 2023. The combination of every tacky op-shop gown you've ever seen, they're flamboyant, clowny, and always over the top. Are they a boy or are they a girl? If you slip them $5, they'll be whatever you want, baby.
Welcome back to the Burlesque Bulletin podcast. I'm your host, Honey Holloway, and today we have someone all the way from Adelaide. It's Dorian Courtisan. Hello.
Hello. Hi.
How are you going?
I'm good. Good today, yeah.
You're doing some rhinestoning?
I am. It's my oldest pair of burlesque shoes and they are struggling. They need to be repaired.
So before we get started, I love to ask my guests a specific question that isn't burlesque related, but I always like to know so I can get the vibes of what the conversation's going to be. So do you know your zodiac sign?
Oh, I don't know the fancy version where you've got like all three of them, but I know my big is just Taurus.
Did you know I'm a Taurus as well?
I did not. Only match.
So yeah, the zodiac sign is like your sun sign, and then so you don't know your moon or your rising. You've never figured it out. We'll have to figure it out for you. Anyways, let's get into all the burlesque fun stuff. So tell us about how you got into burlesque and drag, and brag about your journey.
Well, I actually came from a country town when I was younger, and I only moved to Adelaide in late 2021 with my partner, and I actually stumbled across drag and burlesque kind of by accident. I just ended up going to a few shows, and I ended up doing a open mic sort of beginners drag show, and then I also did a beginners burlesque class at the same time because I was horrendous at any sort of dancing. And yeah, just kind of went from there, more classes, more just throwing myself into gigs, kind of threw myself in the deep end, but it's been a lot of fun.
Awesome. So if you could describe yourself in 5 words, your burlesque and drag personality, what would it be?
Oh, let's say energetic, political, queer, campy, stupid. Yeah.
Amazing. Best combination. And how did you choose your stage name?
Yeah, so I actually, so as a trans person, Dorian is what some people call chosen name. It's not my birth name, on and off stage. And I spent ages trying to come up with some new stage name, but none of them just felt like me. But I ended up coming across the word courtesan, and I was like, oh, it's perfect little rhyme. It's a bit silly, it's a bit flirty, and just went from there.
Amazing. Is it when I think of courtesan, I think of like Moulin Rouge. Is that something that you sort of thought about?
Yeah, it's kind of like a French word for sort of like a mistress kind of thing.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like flirty. It's a bit spicy.
I feel like it's really unique as well. Like even though it's like, from like a burlesque kind of movie, no one else has that name or anything similar. Not that I know of. So
yeah, I haven't come across any other people with courtesan in the name yet, which is
and it's hard. It's hard to get like a good name that no one's thought of. So you've done really well. So who has been some of your burlesque and drag inspirations?
Oh, that's a good question. It's been a while. So I think I first got into drag. Actually, my older sister, she used to also be a drag, burlesque, and sideshow performer years ago before I ever started. And she's, I believe, semi-retired now just for some health reasons. But yeah, I grew up getting to see her do drag and fire and all of these amazing performance things. And then I had a few years past living out in the country, didn't see anything. And yeah, I came back to Adelaide and got to meet some great local people that kind of inspired my style and gave me that feeling of, oh, there's people who look like me or are similar to me and they can succeed in this industry. Like I've got local people like um, there's also a trans drag king, feel excited. There's Diana Devine, who's also a disabled performer like myself. Um, and just a lot of people like that. It's a very long-winded answer, but yeah, I guess seeing people with my life experience helped me realize it's something I'm allowed to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's so
Yeah.
important when we see like people on stage that we sort of see ourselves in them, because that inspires
Yeah.
us to be like, holy shit, like I can do it. Because if you don't know, a lot about burlesque or drag, you could just be like, oh, I could never do that. Like,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah. When I saw those people with a similar body or experience to me that I realized I'm allowed in this space.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. So do you have a creative process, and what does that look like for you?
It's very chaotic. So most of my acts are just born from like often it's the main way that they come across is I'll just be listening to a song. I'll find like one specific little section and it's just from there. I hyperfixate on that little section and then the act just gets born from there.
Love that. And so what does like a pre-show routine or ritual look like for you?
Oh, that's a good question. On a show day, I like to just get a bit of a sleep in if I can, since it's always a long night. Um, have a bit of a shower and a bit of a kind of mental reset time to get myself in that calm headspace. Maybe run through the act if I need to. And yeah, just take a couple hours to myself, taking my time with my makeup, listening to music that gets me in the right energy for the act I'm doing that day. Um, and then yeah, I like to get to the show a bit early and have time to mingle with my fellow castmates, make sure I'm all set, and just I don't know. I'm a very anxious person, so I like to be there very early and just get settled in my bubble.
Prepared. That's really good. I feel
Yeah,
like I hear a lot, especially with people in drag. They go from drag to burlesque and they're like a bit like shocked because drag's a little bit chaotic and you like rock up 5 minutes before like you're meant to be there or before the show starts, and then like it starts late and it's like you haven't even sent the music. Like I've heard horror stories with that where burlesque is like you've got to be that there before your call time. You've got to be like half ready at least or like fully ready, like, and everything. So I've heard yeah, it's a bit of a learning curve when you like go from one to the other. Has that been your experience, or have you sort of? I suppose you dipped your toe into both sort of at the same time, so you're sort of figuring it out
yeah.
like that.
I do find burlesque in general seems to be a lot more well organized, shall we
Yes.
say, than drag. I don't know if you've ever heard the expression "drag time," where
Yes.
everything's running way later than it's meant to be.
Yeah. I feel like
So it's
I would just
definitely
be like a stressed mess if I ever did drag. Like, I'd be like, "What's happening? No one's here."
it's very very disconcerting.
So, what's been some of your highlights in your drag and burlesque career so far?
Oh, yeah, there's been some really interesting things. So I last year I did my first ever burlesque competition, which was the Apprentice in SA, which is Apprentice is kind of like a amateur to mid career sort of level. Um, and I went into it not really expecting anything placement wise. I just wanted to get myself out there, give it a go. As I frequently say, fuck around and find out. Why
Yeah.
not? Um, but yeah, I ended up doing that, and to a surprise to myself, ended up winning.
Yay!
So that was a highlight and a real moment of, I guess, relief in my head. I struggle a lot with imposter syndrome and anxiety, and having that moment of, oh, I'm actually not completely terrible was
Mhm.
pretty nice.
Yep.
Okay. Um, yeah, and since then I've gotten to travel around a bit to Sydney, Melbourne, and Perth. I recently did Perth International Burlesque Festival, which was amazing. It was a dream come true.
Awesome.
Um, And I did a show called T for T, which was all trans cast, all trans crew, and all trans audience, which was
Wow.
amazing. Such a beautiful experience.
That is awesome. So what about
Yeah.
some not so great moments or like some malfunctions or things going wrong on stage?
Ooh, have I had? Well, my first ever act that I ever did, my solo one, I think I have a video somewhere of I come out of the curtain and immediately fall over and my little platform feels. The
No.
second the song starts, I just stack it. Which, it was kind of good because falling over is one of those things I think a lot of newbies worry about. And at least I got it out of the way early. There's that.
Exactly.
um, yeah, since then I've had a few bits and pieces there. I have an act with a really big wig reveal that's timed to this big crescendo in the song. And when I first debuted that act, it came off way too early. So I'm just kind of scrambling around like, oh shit, this is not how this is meant to go. I don't know where to go from here.
Just pretend it's meant to happen. That's
Yeah, like this is the act now. It's fine.
yeah, exactly. So has there been any surprising lessons that you've had to learn or challenges that you've had to overcome?
Hmm. That is a really good question. Yeah, I think going into sort of a mixed art form, like doing drag and burlesque, it's it can be tricky because you don't fully fit into either art form. Like I can get a bit of not quite backlash, but a bit of confusion from people sometimes. Like I know you've probably seen there is a bit of a standard in burlesque where people don't like lip syncing. They don't think it
Mm.
fits with the act. And I've kind of had to defend that a few times, being sort of a hybrid performer. Um, but yeah, luckily I've been quite fortunate in that I have sort of found my own little pocket of the community, like this little safe queer pocket of the burlesque community that feels very safe and they've got my back and they are willing to educate me if I'm doing something wrong or if I'm not quite getting something. But yeah, it's a very loving space. So I'm lucky I haven't had any big dramas.
That's good. So if you could choose someone to share a dressing room with, who would it be?
Oh, that's a great question. I have been such an enormous fan of Carly Missy for a long time from Sydney. Do you know her?
Yep.
Amazing. Such a fantastic performer. Just her facials, her energy. I've just been such in awe of her since I first started burlesque. So I would die to do a show with her one day.
Awesome. So if you could swap lives with another performer for a day, who would it be?
Ooh. I would love to swap with Betty Bombshell because I wish I could do all of the flips and
Oh
floor
my
things that
god.
she.
Yeah, literally. I think we've had that answer many times.
Yeah, she's just incredible. Just the
Yeah.
flow and everything she has.
Yeah, she's amazing. So what's a random or surprising fact about you that maybe not a lot of people know?
Oh, what is that? I don't know. I didn't really have any dance background or anything like that before going into burlesque. I've had a few people just kind of assume, oh, you must have done dancing lessons as a child or something. And my background is really just high school theatre. I graduated like 5 years ago and nothing since then. I just kind of threw myself in.
You're just a natural.
It's been a lot of falling over in the process, but
What's one of your favorite things to do outside burlesque and drag?
oh, good question. I really love just any sort of textile craft. I'm a big fan of sewing and cross stitch, things like that. Um, yeah, I really love roller skating. I haven't done it in a while because I have horrible joints and I'm scared of hurting myself. But I do love roller skating.
It's harder than it looks. I've tried it a few times and I'm like, how did people make this look good and dainty and like, oh,
It's so hard. I've
it's
seen
so
people do it on stage and it's like I don't trust myself to do that.
literally, I'm like, I find it difficult to even dance in heels. and be on stage
Yeah.
with heels, let alone like a wheel.
God, yeah. Friend Cherry Bomb has a diner waitress act where she's just
Amazing.
zooming around on roller skates the whole time, and I've seen her like climb up and down off a stage, do splits in them, and it's like, I don't know how
Oh
you're
my
alive.
God.
I don't know how you're alive.
Literally pure talent there. Skill and talent and a lot of practice, I think. What's been some great advice that you've received and maybe some not so good advice as well?
Oh, um, yeah, I think something I found really helpful. Um, so when I was preparing for apprentice, I booked in my first ever like private session with someone, um, just to get feedback on the act. Because I before that was very scared of letting people see an unfinished product. It felt very vulnerable. Um, but I booked in a private session with someone who's now like my best friend, Saskia. And one thing she pointed out was the act had started as drag with burlesque kind of added to it. But what we'd done to reshape it had changed it into a burlesque act with drag. And I think that refocus in my brain has really helped. Because before that, I was really just, I was taking off the things, but I wasn't taking that moment to savor the feeling and really tease it off.
Mhm.
And that reframe was such good advice. It's really reshaped the way that I've actually sort of progressed through my acts and how I build them. As for great advice, bad advice, what have I got? Mm, there's got to be something. Like I've got to been told some bullshit at some point.
Yeah, literally. I mean, it's probably good that you've like forgotten. It's just like,
Just blanked it out. That's
yeah,
probably what's happened.
exactly. It was shit advice, so you're not going to remember it. Don't have time or the memory storage for that.
Just gonna leave them out.
So how do you overcome imposter syndrome? Do you have any little tips or things that you do to sort of combat that?
Ooh, that is a great question. So as someone with anxiety and just in general, imposter syndrome is a lot. I feel like it's something we all experience from time to time. That little voice saying like, you didn't actually earn this gig, or you're not good enough, things like that. Um, but one thing I remember quite early on, I think I was about 6 months into performing, and I got booked for a New Year's Eve gig at my favorite queer nightclub, My Lover Cindy. And Diana Devine, who I really looked up to and still do, was also booked on that lineup. And I remember talking to them and being like, oh, this is like, I can't believe like I'm on the same lineup as you. I don't feel like I'm worthy of that. And I don't feel like I'm as good as you or these other performers. And something Di said was, well, you're on the same lineup as me. So clearly you must be as good as me. Like you're on the same standard right now. And that kind of thinking has really helped reshape it in my brain. Like if I'm looking at a cast and I'm like, oh, I'm not good enough for this. Sometimes you have to take a step back and think, well, I didn't book myself. The producers looked at me and this lineup and they decided to them that I am at that standard. And it's a great way of remembering, they put you in that cast for a reason. They wouldn't have done it if they didn't think you were good enough.
Definitely.
Yeah.
It's great when it comes from like one of your idols as well, or someone that you really look up to, because you're like, oh, like I don't think they're lying to me. Like I hope not, and I don't think so, but it makes sense what they're saying. So
Yeah, it was just such a great way of reshaping the way I look at it in my brain. And it's really helped with combating that imposter syndrome over time.
amazing. So if you could travel back in time and talk to yourself when you started, what would you say? Would you have any advice for yourself
Oh,
or do anything different?
I'd say probably learn how to stay still a little bit more.
Like slow
Looking
things
back at all of
down,
my early
or
performances,
what do you mean by that?
yeah, yeah, just slow things down. I was very jumpy in early performances. I think partially from nerves and also partially from not being quite as choreographed as I am now. But
Mhm.
I was very jumpy all over the place. And it's nice to learn how to slow things down. I think it's a really scary thing to learn as well. I don't know, with slow things, I always feel like I'm boring the audience, but it's really powerful when you can harness that stillness.
Yeah, I feel that as well. Like that's my struggle is really like slowing things down and everything like that. Cause yeah, you feel like, oh, you're boring the audience. If you're not like there every second, they're like gonna lose interest. But like the people who can really like captivate an audience and slow down and like make it still entertaining, I'm just like, oh my God, like goals. Like that is what I strive to be, but it's hard. Hard to learn.
Yeah, it's very tricky to get that right balance of it as well.
Definitely. So, what do you believe is your biggest strength when performing?
Ooh, um, I'd say probably my energy and audience interaction. Like, I love my skill, like floor work and that, but something that I've had a lot of people say in feedback or after shows is that they love the way I interact with the audience or the energy that I kind of hold the audience with. And I love audience interaction. It's one of my favorite parts. I love getting to really embrace the live aspect of performance and just involve them. And I know a lot of us as audience members have, you've got that memory of that one time a performer picked you specifically in the crowd to interact with and have that special moment with. And I love getting to give that to people in return.
Love that. And what about
Yeah.
any weaknesses or something that you really want to work on?
Ooh, I'm not good at sort of serious acts. I'm a very comedy and sort of campy performer, which I love, but I do love something about those really serious, sensual acts where it's just, there's no comedy or anything to hide behind. It's just embracing your own sensuality and control over the audience, which is amazing, but not something I've really tried so far. So I'd love to be able to do that. It's a bit of a weakness at the moment.
And what's a goal that you have for the future? I'm sure you have many goals, but is there one that comes to mind?
Well, what do I have planned? I've always wanted to eventually, like years down the line, hit each state in Australia, kind of tick them all off my list with the show. Um, so far, I've gotten SA, Melbourne, Sydney, and Perth. So I've still got a few more to get.
Got to come to Brisbane.
So I'd love. Yes, I do want to hit up Brisbane sometime. I've heard good things about the scene there.
Yeah, everyone's pretty awesome.
Yeah, yeah, I've heard very good things. And then also, I'd love to, at some point or another, dip my toes into doing Mixed Burlesque South Australia, just as a challenge to myself.
That would be amazing.
Yeah, which is a scary prospect, but exciting.
Definitely. But I think you can do it.
Yeah, I think it'd be fun, regardless of placement. It's just a nice
Yeah,
opportunity. Why not?
definitely. Well, we're going to go to a break and then we'll be back with a fun little game.
A quick thanks to Cam Attry for sponsoring the Burlesque Bulletin and for all his hard work behind the scenes, filming and editing the podcast. Cam has been involved in the burlesque industry for over 12 years through his photography and videography. If you are a performer looking to get promo photos and video, or a producer looking to get your show photographed or filmed, please contact Cam through his website, camattry.photography, or find him on Instagram at camattryphotovideo. And now back to the episode.
Welcome back. We are here with Dorian Courtisan and we are going to play a game. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay, so the game is called This or That, and it's pretty self-explanatory. You just choose your favorite.
Yeah, awesome.
Okay. Rhinestones or feathers?
Oh, shit, that's a hard one. Rhinestones.
C string or G string?
C string.
Neo or classic?
Neo.
I can't believe you said C string. I think that's the first time someone said C string.
Oh, that's so fun.
Oh, they scare me. Boa or feather fans?
Ooh, feather fans.
Lace or leather?
Leather.
Tassels or assels?
Tassels. I'm horrendous at tassels.
Oh, really? Diamonds or pearls?
Pearls.
Drag or burlesque?
Oh, shit, that's a hard one. Those?
That's okay. I accept that answer. That's all right. Stocking peels or stripper heels?
Oh, stripper heels, 100%.
Big stage show or intimate bar show?
Big stage show.
Cabaret or comedy?
Cabaret.
Movies or a TV series?
TV series.
Have you got anything that you're watching at the moment or like a favorite of all time of yours that you can share?
Ooh. We're just restarting What We Do in the Shadows to prepare for the new season. It's such a
Nice.
banger.
So good. I'm very excited for the new season too. Early bird or night owl?
No,
Sweet or savory?
sweet. Yeah.
Halloween or Christmas?
Halloween, 100%.
Heck yeah. Red or white wine?
Actually hate wine in general.
Me too. It's okay. Cocktails or beer?
Cocktail. Love a good fruity cocktail.
And what's your favorite cocktail?
I'm a big fan of Japanese slippers. They're so good.
Oh, I don't think I've ever had one.
Yeah, it's like a Melbourne-based thing. It's like Midori, cherries, really good shit.
Oh, that sounds good. So have you got anything coming up for the rest of the year or in the new year?
Oh, yes, I'm doing a couple things for Feast Festival, which is like a queer arts festival in South Australia. So I'm doing My Lover Cindy's Reunion, which is for our queer bar, which sadly closed down a while back, doing a little reunion party. And then doing a show.
I'm actually
Oh,
so sad about that because My Lover Cindy was one of the places that I like really wanted to perform at when I found out that it existed because I'm like a huge fan of the L Word, obviously.
yeah, it's such a little venue.
So sad. I really hope they miraculously reopen in the future, but
Yeah, well, I know they're planning to do a few like regular reunion events, which is really sweet.
okay, that's
Um,
good.
got
Yeah,
that.
so anything else?
Yeah, I've got Naked Gaze Reading, which is about like desexualizing nude bodies. So it's just a bunch of cabaret performers getting naked reading fun books.
Awesome.
So that should be fun. That's pretty much the moment, I think.
Okay, awesome. And I'm not sure when this is going to come out, but whenever it is, we'll put dates and everything in the bio, in the information notes and all that sort of stuff, so everyone can come find you and say hi and come to your show. So
Awesome.
where can people find you? What's your Instagram?
Yes, so my Insta is at Dorian.Courtisan. And I don't have a book or a website or anything. I'm very basic.
That's right. Instagram's all that's needed, pretty much.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here and being on the podcast. I really appreciate it.
Okay, thank you for having me. It's been a lot of fun getting to chat and just share my own little sort of corner of experience, I guess.
Yes, definitely. Awesome. Well, have a good day.
You too. Thanks for having me.
No
Bye.
worries. Bye. Thank you so much to our guest for being on the podcast and letting us take a peek behind the curtain of their lives. Thanks for everyone joining us, and we will see you in our next episode.